Okay, here we see Adobe Photoshop CS6 is already opened. On the computers at school, you can open Adobe Photoshop CS6 from going up to this little magnifying glass up in the corner, up here, and simply typing in Photoshop CS6. And it should come up as you start typing. You can just go right down, and if you hover over this, it'll actually give you the path. Adobe Photoshop CS6. It's in the Applications folder in the Adobe folder. So you can go ahead and do it that way. You can also go to your hard drive over here and double-click the hard drive, and you'll see a folder over here called Applications. And in the Application folder, you'll see all of the applications that you have on your computer. And you just go ahead and choose Adobe Photoshop. So you can open Photoshop any way you like, and once you open it one way, chances are that's the way you're going to open it all the time. But as we see here, the Photoshop interface CS6 is sort of a black on with white or lighter letters. For those of you who aren't new to Photoshop, it didn't look like this all the time. So if you go ahead and click on Photoshop, you'll notice that we're in Photoshop because the menu up here changes. If I click on the desktop, I go to the Finder. So we can go in and out of the program. So keep that in mind as you're working in Photoshop. Sometimes it looks as if it's not working, but you go ahead and click anywhere in the program, and your menu up here will change. This is something we've already discussed in class. If you'd like to customize the interface, the Photoshop interface, go up here to Photoshop and go over to Preferences, and you'll see the word Interface. And when you go into the interface, you can go ahead, I'll move this over so you could see. You can go ahead and change it to the lighter, the old-fashioned sort of Photoshop, old-fashioned CS5, or you can go a little bit darker here, okay? And you could change all kinds of other options in here. But if you'd like to change the color, you can go ahead and do that. I'm actually just going to keep it kind of dark because I think it looks pretty. You can go ahead and say OK. You can also change the interface on the fly by just simply holding Shift and F2. And that will take you up, or Shift F1 and that will take you darker. So that's the darkest, and then you can go ahead and press Shift F2 and go up to the lightest version of Photoshop. I'm going to open an image so we can see how this background, changing the color of the background sort of works for us. So I can go here, go down to File, Open. In my home directory here I have a bunch of images that I might want to use. So let's just go ahead and take this orange bottle image. We're going to be using this later in a different project. If I look to my right, I see that I have a number of panels over here that I might want to work with later. But for now, we're going to go over to the color panel and simply click on a color so I can demonstrate this a bit. If I go over and I notice this toolbar that's on the left-hand side, which we will also talk about later, the foreground color, which is the top, changes to that color that I've just clicked in the color palette over here. For example, I can go ahead and keep clicking through these colors, and you'll notice as I'm clicking, the foreground color changes. If I hold the paint bucket tool, which is in the gradient tool over here, it's the second one, and I hold the Shift key and I simply click, it will change the background of the work area to that color that I've chosen from the color picker. And that's just sometimes a simple, fun little thing that you might want to do. And if it gets a little bit out of control, you can simply hold the Control key and you have all these other options here. Black. Now this is as long as you're in the paint bucket tool. Dark gray, set a custom color. I'm going to go back to the default, which is the black. So that's a little bit of a Photoshop introduction, seeing how you can customize the interface and see what you like to do with that interface. The other thing I'd like to show you in this opening movie is take a look up here at this little tab that says Orange Juice Bottle, JPEG at 100%. That gives us the information about the file that we have open. If I go ahead and open another image, I'll open multiple images. So we'll open, let's see, where was that? Old image. I'll open him. And I'll go ahead and open another image. This time maybe I'll just do Command 0. We love those shortcut keys. Those shortcut keys will bring you, Command 0 will bring you to this box where you're going to open an object. But let me take a moment right here to notice that we can view this area in Photoshop on the Mac many different ways. This is the icon view. This is the list view, which looks familiar to those people who like PCs. This is the column view, and this is the sort of iPod cool scrolly type of view. So you can view your images 4 different ways: list, columns, all different things. These little pop-out triangles will then open up whatever is in those little folders. So we all know about the downward facing triangle. So in any case, once I open the 2 images, I can see here now I have what's called the old image, and if I look up here, I see a tab up here that gives me a shortcut to some information. So the name of this file is oldimage.jpg, and it's at 66%. I'm not at 100%. If I click on the other tab, that tab will brighten up, plus I'll get to see my other file, the orange juice file, once you click on that. So when you have multiple files open, you will see a number of tabs up here. So don't think that your image is going to be someplace else other than right here on your desktop. I can put my cursor in the corner of this window, of the Photoshop window, and I can sort of move this and collapse it. Now, if I wanted to see both of these images on the screen at the same time, I'd simply grab the tab, hold my mouse down, and separate that. So now I have the old image over here, and I have the orange juice bottle over here. If I want to put that image back into Photoshop over here, I'll just move it back in. And I can expand that tab this way. So if I go to my old image, I'm in the old image. If I click on the orange juice bottle, I'm in the orange juice bottle. If I want to put my old image back, I simply bring it over back into the Photoshop interface. Now watch what happens to the border of the work area. It turns a little bit into a bright blue. You drop it right there, and now they're combined again. And we're going to save this image, File, Save As. I'm going to name it something different because it's a default image. Here's my home directory. We talked about that in class also too. I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to give this a new name. I'm going to call it To Old Image. And I'm going to save it not as a JPEG, and this is very important. After you open these images from the internet, you might want to save them as Photoshop files so you'll have those layers available to you that we're going to talk about later. And you go ahead and click Save. And that is that. So that's opening an image, changing the interface, clicking on the color palette to change the foreground color, and saving your image to your folder.